Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Infinite Crypto Cruisers. Hey there, folks. My name is Brad Varnell, and this is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. And today I have a special token teaser segment that I am super excited about. I know the two gentlemen that I'm going to be introducing you to very well. We've met, now a couple of years ago. But this project that we're going to be sharing with you today has really been in the brain of the founder of this project for a decade plus. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce you guys to the Utherverse Metaverse project. We've got Peter Gantner here in the middle. He is a Web3 advisor to the project. And then we've got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Brian Schuster, the founder and CEO of Utherverse. Welcome to the show, guys. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Brad. Nice being here.
Yeah, great to be on the channel. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, you've been on the channel before, but Brian, this is the first time that we've had a chance to actually really get on here and deep dive into the Utherverse Metaverse. And so I'm super excited about that. And I'd really love to give you an opportunity to kind of maybe go back into the early 2000s where this all kind of started.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And it's great to be introduced to your followers, your audience here, and to be able to share, my brainchild here, my life's work with everybody. And so I think that's where I'll go back to. I'll go back to the early 90s because that's really where the life's work in this area began. And that is where I got introduced to the internet for the first time, back when it was really just government and university, a tool for governments and universities, right? I studied mass communications at UCLA, and I studied business at UCLA. I was introduced to the internet and realized this is really a fantastic medium that should be commercialized, and that there's so much potential for it. But of course, back in those days, there was no commercial web. So shortly after I was graduated, I got together my very first website. It was a commercial website for a comic that I did. I was an internationally syndicated newspaper comic artist for a while there. I quickly learned why the internet wasn't commercialized, because it was so expensive. Hosting a website, even getting a few hundred visitors a day was quite expensive, and that made it a pretty large website back in the day. So I started looking at ways to commercialize the web, really ways to exploit the traffic and to be able to monetize and create value for people that were going to be producing content. And to get to the heart of the matter, I looped in a buddy of mine who worked for NASA JPL, and we put together a plan. I ran the business side. He developed a software that would allow us to introduce banners. The way that worked, and really the breakthrough on this wasn't the idea of putting ads on websites. It was, how do you attract international advertisers to a brand new medium where websites are getting a couple of hundred, if they're a large site, a couple of hundred eyeballs a day. You couldn't localize, you couldn't identify the users back then. It was really primitive HTML 0.8, in beta where we released. So the platform had to develop where I could aggregate tens of thousands of websites. And I ended up doing this with a banner rotation program where, websites that participated got exposure, they got traffic, they didn't need to pay for advertising. Their ads ran on comparable sites, other sites ran banners on their site. And this introduced people to the concept of advertising. This introduced people to the network. And I was able to leap on that to developing actual monetization methods. And once we released actual monetization, everything flipped like a switch. The internet, suddenly my banner ads, you could find them on every website on the internet. Back by the late mid 90s, I controlled about 25% of internet traffic. We were bringing millions of people to the internet every month. I opened up offices, obviously in Silicon Valley. We had offices in Los Angeles. I had offices in Nevada, and the company just exploded. We moved from there to developing all kinds of other advertising technologies. I'm credited with pop-up ads and pop-up ads, and we patented a bunch of this stuff and really pivoted in the late 90s to, thinking about what was next for the web. Now that HTML was solid, websites had proven themselves. We developed we developed a lot of the technology that underpins social media and what we call Web 2. And, we brought those to life, patented those. After the crash in 2000, I liquidated some of those patents, and that's why you see sites like Twitter and Reddit that are using this technology, which I developed. And then in the early 2000s, my late business partner and I really sat down and said, okay, we did Web 1, we did Web 2. What is the final iteration going to be, and how do we get from here to there? And we realized after considerable time and brainstorming and thought that the final iteration of the web was going to be this fully immersive digital landscape where people could interact. I mean, you still have the flat web. It's great for things like data entry and for, getting, searches and information. But the socialization aspect, the Web 2 aspect would mature into avatars, virtual environment, virtual landscapes. We were calling it the virtual world web. And now, of course, people refer to that as metaverse. And so in the early 2000s, we dedicated a bunch of resource to developing the very first metaverse platform to see if it would be commercially viable even back then, and it was. And then we developed our second generation, which is still live today, been operating for more than 19 years now. Tens of millions of users, billions of dollars in economic transactions that have occurred. We introduced the very first digital currency back before Bitcoin, and that I named after my late business partner, Ray. So those are, Rays that have done these, tens of billions of dollars of transactions. And this sort of laid the groundwork for digital currencies, digital goods. I mean, we were selling, of course, digital goods and services long before anybody had heard of the term Web3. So we ended up with a huge amount of experience. There's nothing that beats actually running metaverse against, tens of millions of live real users. And we franchised out to 17 different countries. So we have experience, with all of these different regional versions of metaverse, and all of that play into, our patent portfolio in the metaverse space, where we've got more than 80, we have been granted more than 85 patents on core metaverse technologies. And even more than the patents, of course, is the experience of the team in building this. So several years ago, we looked at what we had done with Classic. We looked at what we did with our version 3 of the software, and we said, okay, now how do we do this, from the ground up? We're going to start over. We're going to rebuild everything with everything that we've learned, so we completely efficient and really can capture and become the next layer of the internet. And that's where we are now. We developed the Zeon platform, and that is now releasing to the public. It's in public beta.
Awesome. Appreciate all of that background. One of the things that really attracted me to the Utherverse was, most people watching this video probably never really heard about the metaverse until 2021. And and probably a lot of people, in crypto, heard about it earlier in 21. And then finally, Zuckerberg over on Facebook, changed, Facebook to Meta. But I was really intrigued when I found out that this was something that you had envisioned and that you had been working towards now for almost 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that fascinates me is we had other entrants that tried to compete with us in the metaverse space spanning those couple of decades. And they all have basically failed because they missed the key aspects, the key sort of things that we learned by growing up around metaverse over 20 years. And I can go into all the different business models. It's not really on the technology side, although it is. There's a lot of technology pitfalls, but there are a lot of just business pitfalls that, if you don't understand really, as I said, what live users, what real users want to do in metaverse, then your metaverse is going to fail. And this is what we saw with Decentralized and the Sandbox and Facebook Horizon World, is what we've seen with when Google tried, Google Lively and Sony at Home tried a metaverse, and none of them understood why an immersive environment is so compelling, what makes it compelling, and that's really an enormous distinction. It's why you see already in our closed beta, we're not just doing an event and then the place is abandoned for weeks at a time. We're not selling land and expecting that people are going to build something magical on this land that makes everything super valuable. It's important to understand that giving people the tools, getting people in a social community, in a social environment, to be able to do the things that they would otherwise do on the web or on different platforms, but they're able to do it in a more engaged, more socialized way all the time, always on, always people. So it's social. I mean, the classic version, it's the greatest matchmaking platform that's ever existed, because you're not swiping on a phone. You have an avatar. You're meeting other people in a more natural setting. You're meeting their friends. You're able to engage in group conversations. You find people that you like on that kind of level, and it's resulted in over 7,000 weddings. Understanding that kind of use case, then you get to add all the bells and whistles. It's really it's the experience of having started the commercialized web, where, well, what drives people to a website? How do these things become popular? And it's sort of recapitulating that whole evolution in metaverse space.
Awesome. Peter, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, we're looking at, and of course your channel's about crypto and Web3 and where Web3 is going. And of course, Web3 is the final iteration of the web, which means that metaverse is really the core of all of Web3, right? Eventually, they're all digital, right? That's what we're talking about. Digital environments, digital operations, whether it's DeFi or SoFi and all that stuff. So where will they, to me, common sense is, where will they function best? In a digital environment. What's a metaverse? It's a digital environment that's immersive. And so I believe it's super important, if we really want Web3 to get to its full potential, is to really get behind metaverses, get engaged with it, and start helping build, the tools that are, inside those, the audiences, the people, so we can then move Web3 to its final full, allowing it to fully bloom, right? To really grab hold.
And there's really some fantastic examples of that already in our metaverse platform. I was, every time I would speak, about NFTs, I would say, the problem with NFTs is they don't have this intrinsic value when you're buying just like a JPEG. You're able to show that off on your phone. But in a metaverse, your NFT can have intrinsic value because it can function. So even if you buy a JPEG NFT, a Bored Ape, if you can hang that in your store, and it's authenticated by the metaverse, by our access control layers between Web3 and the chains where the NFT lives and the metaverse, people can know that this is authentic. It's actually part of the correct collection, and you're the owner of it, the only one. This adds some intrinsic value when you can wear it as clothing, and when the clothing can do things. When you can wear a digital Rolex, and the digital Rolex has this function that it is like a glow stick when you're on a dance floor. Well, all of a sudden now you're starting to add value to these digital goods, and of course, as Peter is saying, because Web3, because crypto is all about digital. The natural home for cryptocurrencies, the natural home for NFT projects is a metaverse. That's where digital meets digital, and that's how Web3 expands into the real economy. It expands into the real economy first by gaining the traction inside a metaverse, inside a digital economy, really like as if it's an internet currency that's native to the internet. We missed that one at the beginning of the web. I got in a little bit too late. I tried, but we ran into all these legal roadblocks with banking and blue sky laws and everything. That's why Raise didn't end up becoming Bitcoin. Although there's other reasons too. Bitcoin is pretty unique and genius. But I was trying back then. We just encountered all kinds of walls. But those walls have come down now because it's all digital. And you can start in the digital economy, and then it can bleed out into the real economy. And this is where Web3 really stands up. And it requires not just a metaverse, like what we're building, our flagship metaverse, the Utherverse Zeon, but this metaverse platform where any project, any person can, as easily as you can put together a website and attach it to the internet so that people can surf through it on a browser. We do that in Utherverse with Zeon, with the Zeon browser. It's a metaverse browser. It allows, we're authoritative for domain names. So you're not really buying property, you're getting a domain. And when you get the domain, you could build your metaverse using our tools. It's cheap, it's easy, it's super professional. It's totally disruptive to the metaverse industry as it existed before us. Because now, instead of spending millions of dollars to try to put together a metaverse, you're spending nothing to a few $100s, and you're putting together a spectacular metaverse that has, we call them sovereigns, because you have so much control over the rules, you have so much control over what it looks like, how it plays, how it feels. And then, of course, different sovereigns. The really complicated part of building it from a tech standpoint is the horizontal access controls. So it's unlike the web where you just click from one website to another. You click from one sovereign to another. These sovereigns may have different rules, and you need to they need to connect and just figure out the interoperability there, or else you get stopped. So I like to say, if you're sunning at the new beach, you probably can't click straight over to church or school.
Right.
You got to get stopped, and it says you need to be wearing clothes and you need to be human, and you can't fly, and these kinds of things, right?
Okay.
So building all those access controls is a big part of what makes Utherverse unique also with the browser.
I think a way for the audience to look at it is think about an infinite crypto metaverse, right? And so you have your YouTube channel, you're building your audience. Eventually you say, hey, the tools are available now, and you go out and you start building your metaverse. So instead of people watching this on YouTube, they're sitting in an arena as an avatar, watching an interview. They're able to interact with you directly, Brad. You're able to have training courses, all kinds of stuff inside the metaverse versus just looking at it. So they can interact. They can be a part of the content that you're creating versus just watching the content. That's where we see a ton of value, especially for influencers, people that are out building audiences.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to doing it. Sometimes I feel, I'm 51 and I'm kind of a little bit behind the curve technology wise. I got out of school and everything right kind of before the computer boom and all of that. But if you guys got somebody that can help me with that, I would love to put together a metaverse and be involved in that. And I think the timing right now is just so incredible. I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely heard a few people that have said, the metaverse is, that was the last bull run. That's over. That's done for. And I don't think, I'll give you guys a chance to agree or disagree with me, but I don't think they really truly understand. That's like saying that, automobiles were fun for a little while, but we're going to go back to horse and buggies, in my opinion. Like, the metaverse is here to stay. It's going to grow. It's going to get massive with or without us. And so that's at least my take on it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview is because I think that maybe metaverse tokens haven't performed as well as, AI tokens in this bull run, but I believe it's coming. I believe that metaverse is going to have its day in the sun here in the very near future.
Yeah, I think one of the things that happened with metaverse, so it was on a good course for developing and building. Then, as you mentioned in the very beginning, Mark Zuckerberg put a giant spotlight on it, and it was put on before it was ready to be put on, right? It's like opening the curtain before the show set up, right? So, and then guess what? It was one of the biggest companies in the world, Facebook, who was getting behind this. So everybody thought, well, this is going to take off overnight. The technology that they were using wasn't ready. It's still not ready, right? And so you end up with this overheating of it way faster than it should have, and then that allows for the interest in it and the money flowing into it, and the rise in their cryptos just did not match where the technology was and the development process of this. We believe the timing right now is perfect for all that to come together. But I'll let Brian speak on this because he's the expert here.
You know, I've got a couple of different lines of discussion that I want to have on this, because it really is very important. I hear this all the time. And I suppose the first line of discussion that I want to have is what I was talking about a little bit ago. And that is these metaverses that came out are all absolute garbage. They're not real metaverses, right? They're clumsy, they're difficult, there's nothing to do. They were basically pump and dump, where, you know, it's trying to sell land and pretending for some reason. I never understood this, that land would have value in a metaverse. Land is not scarce in a metaverse. I can create an infinite amount of land. I can create unreal space. I can create multidimensional space. So why do you think that a parcel of land in your metaverse has any value? Its only value is if it's proximate to other land which is being developed, maybe, in which case you have a location there that is going to maybe have foot traffic going by it. Very challenging for me to see how that ever turns into actual income in the first place. Or if you build something on the land, so the land itself doesn't have value, it would be what you construct on it. And in which case you're doing all the marketing for Decentraland or for the sandbox. Also, there are so many features, rules, conditions that need to be right in order for metaverse to be compelling. I like to call it the charm. And if a metaverse doesn't have charm, I mean, that was the problem with our third generation software, which never met commercial viability, so it was never truly released commercially. It had a wide range of features, but they were very utilitarian. People would come in and it wasn't fun. Your avatar could move, your avatar looked good, but it lacked any real flavor and enjoyment aspect. It was very programmery. The other downfall I see generally of metaverse is it's the same. It followed the same trajectory. It follows the same trajectory as everything, but I like to put things in the context of internet because that's my wheelhouse. And you know, one of the big pivotal moments in my life was when the market crashed in 2000, and all these internet companies are wiped out. And I like to say now, look around at the same companies doing the same things as the internet companies were doing back in 1999 when they were said to be way overvalued. Well, they weren't really overvalued, they were early. And the revenue models weren't defined enough, so they went under, and it was a huge market wipeout, and everybody panicked. And I heard lots of calls back then saying the internet is over, the web is done, you know, didn't work out, just like every other technology that has its peak, and then all the poor projects get wiped out, and the true projects survive and become the Amazon, Google, you know, Facebook. And that's where we are, I think, with Metaverse, which is, in my mind, it was never done properly. It was always, they were ahead of their skis on it. And people poured huge amounts of money in for the right reason, because they understood that this is the future. You know, to be able to put on a VR headset and be fully immersed and engaged for 20 minutes with like high value content, to be able to do things like have a convention and walk the trade show floor and have a digital AI assistant that is monitoring everything that you do and guiding you to the different booths and then recording your conversations and organizing it for you. I mean, these trade shows are vastly more efficient and effective and much lower cost than attending a real trade show in person. And then you have the after party, you have the cocktail parties, you're meeting people anyway. It's all so efficient and disruptive. And that's, one vertical, right? I mean, there's shopping and clothing and government and education and concerts and entertainment and dating and weddings and all of the cottage industries, like what you were talking about. If there was somebody who could build your metaverse for you, well, there are whole cottage industries of people that do that. They build metaverses on our platform for third parties, and it's inexpensive, and you just go to the community or go to the find their ads for doing business. But the cottage industries that exist already in our classic software for all of these types of things, we know that metaverse, it solves so many problems. It's so disruptive to existing technology, and it's so efficient when you think about attending a concert and being able to get a box seat, or attending the Super Bowl and getting your own premium viewing
Sweet.
area where yes, thank you, I'm struggling for the word there, where your friends from all over the world are watching the game with you, but it costs everybody $5 instead of thousands of dollars, right? Very disruptive, very efficient for the economy. It really is a massive economic stimulus, and it's really stimulating for Web3 because all of this stuff is done with digital goods, cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology. This just didn't exist in the last cycle. When we properly release here already we're in beta, public beta. Anybody can come download. There's events going on all the time. You're going to meet all kinds of people. We had a Web3 conference in there already. We're going to do another one in a few months. I mean, the use cases are there, and it's unlike anything that you saw in the last cycle. So rightly so, these companies are struggling now, and they will end up disappearing, just like after the market crash in 1999. But the strong companies are going to be vastly more valuable, vastly more effective, efficient, and that's what I'm excited about in the metaverse space. I mean, everybody got it right, just the timing was off. I guess that's the soundbite there.
Great explanation. Love that.
Thank you.
So I got a quick question. Do you feel like metaverses in general are going to be kind of a little bit like insurance company where there's room for there to be several successful ones? Or do you really feel like there's going to be a clear winner or two over the next handful of years?
Well, my take on it is that we're going to go through the same evolution again. I'm going to go back to the internet. Back when I got online, you had multiple intranets. You had America Online, sort of a walled garden. You had CompuServe, a walled garden, and you had the internet, which people didn't really use if you weren't in academia because it was much more programmery, much less user friendly. But because the internet itself was open, and these other offerings, these intranets were walled gardens, the internet ended up, just like what we're doing. We open to sovereigns. Anybody can connect. We operate as a platform. I don't want it to evolve the way the internet did because there were a lot of things that evolved on the internet that are problematic. You didn't have security properly. So we get phishing attacks, we get denial of service attacks, we get hacks and these types of things. It didn't have a built-in e-commerce layer that was secure. Lots of lots of problems like that I think metaverse needs to be intelligently designed first, or it's going to be 20 years before anything really takes off. So we're doing sort of this intelligent design of the platform layer and then moving it to decentralized so that it can be like the internet. But at the end of the day, it's going to follow the trajectory of the internet. There is only one. There's only one internet, but anybody that wants a website can have a website on it. And this is going to be the same. There will be one metaverse platform because it's so impossible really to make interoperability without having some kind of consistent protocol layer. We've got the protocol layer. It's done. It's easy to build on. And because we're opening the sovereigns up to being able to be wildly different. They could be first-person shooter games. They could be massively multi-user online games. They could be mini games that connect to each other so that it creates sort of an organic, massive game. I mean, I could go on and on. The decentralized aspect of it is really the key. There will be only one. At the end of the day, everything else is going to shake out. We're going to be the platform layer, and then everybody will have their own metaverse or metaverses. Probably companies will have 12, 100 different metaverses, but it's just like websites. That's how I see it.
Awesome, man. That sounds like a big opportunity to me for those of us that are lucky enough to have found you this early in the game. Do you want to run over? I've got your website kind of queued up. Do you want to run over and take a peek at the website and maybe show off a few things at Utherverse.io?
That'd be great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Let's do it. Let's see here. There we go. So as you guys can see here, the world's most advanced metaverse now live. What would you guys like me to highlight? Is there anything in particular that you would like me to scroll down to or click on?
So let's start with the very top banner there. The UTHEX token is the token that powers the metaverse. So I've said many times already, decentralized, sovereigns, it's all, any crypto project should come in. But there is a reason why there's an underlying token here, the UTHEX token. And that is because in order to interact with the system, or to have the system interact with you, it is all done in UTHEX. So we've got the contract address for UTHEX up at the very top, so you can make sure that you're getting the right token, the legit token. It's Utherverse.io, and you'll see the contract address. Third-party projects can come in if they've got their own cryptocurrency in their metaverse. They can certainly use that as their currency, but in order for the access control layers to operate, in order for you to be able to upgrade your account to do things system-wide, in order to get paid when you play to earn, right? All of that happens ultimately in UTHEX. And then I suppose the next thing down there is Zeon. I've mentioned it, but there it is in writing. Zeon is now in public beta. Zeon is the name of the browser. Zeon will be a fully functional Web 2 browser. So you'll be able to tab browse flat websites, but it is the only browser currently which will allow you to browse Metaverse. So you'll download the Zeon browser, and then you have access to our flagship Metaverse, and then every sovereign that comes on after that. Our first sovereign likely launching in December, but it may push back over the holidays to January. All of the sovereigns then you'll be accessing through a very easy. I mean, if you've used a browser, you can use Zeon, right? It's got landmark button and home button and back, forward. So it's really designed to be as soon as you see it, there's no barrier to entry, because I, like you, am in that same generation. And oh my God, when all these new technologies come in fast and furious, you sort of get overloaded. We decided, we've got to make this something that people already know how to use. There's no learning curve at all. So you click a button and you'll be able to download free to play.
Yep, completely free to get in there, start engaging, start learning the metaverse. It's our future, so you might as well jump in and engage now.
And you can get paid. I mean, we're always giving away prizes and rewards, or, we just finished up the Halloween quests where you got free tokens and all of that. Here are guys just,
15 UTHEX. That's worth about $6-7 right now, just for playing a couple of games and having some fun and earning some skins, some limited edition skins. So it was an absolute blast of a time, and getting compensated for that is actually very good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the fact that you guys decided to launch on Solana. Such a great chain with so much going on it, really inexpensive fees. Everything about this project that I've seen is just absolutely first class.
Well, thank you. I mean, that was not an easy decision, and it was several years of going back and forth with discussing chains and getting everything prepared. And ultimately, I agree with you. Solana was the right choice, and that's where we ended up landing. And and it really is great to be able to, you know, transact with such low gas fees, basically.
And then not only that, but how in the world do you take a project that's been in the works for decades and manage to launch your token at one of the best absolute moments in history? Unbelievable, man. You know, a lot of my viewers probably know it, but you guys were nice enough, you know, to allow me to share, this project before it went public with my community. So I have a lot of community members that are already, holders of this token. But what an incredible launch. You guys have to be really excited about the way the last month or so since you've launched has gone.
Yeah. Really, so much planning, and I got to give a lot of credit to Peter. He and I discussed it for hours on end, all the time. And we had so much going on at the same time as the launch. We just opened to public beta. We had this Web3 conference, and we wanted to launch the token on the last day of the Web3 conference, just before we had the award show for the trade show, booths and everything. And so all of our teams working in all of these different areas to coordinate all of this to happen at the same time, and also timing the market here. So yes, I appreciate you saying that. And I'm still looking at this as we needed to launch the token before we could turn on we call it in-world for shorthand. Before we could turn on the in-world economy, we needed to have the token actually trading so that we could then, create the custodial wallets and get the access control layer between blockchain and the custodial wallets for the in-world transactions and all of that. A lot of programming still to do, but November is the month that we're intending to turn on the in-world economy so that the system can pay you, you can pay the system, all transactions between users and all of this stuff. So I look at this window of opportunity before the in-world economy is turned on, where users actually need UTHEX in order to be able to transact. Right now, it's all free, right? This is still the sort of window to get in at this kind of discount in my mind. It's not financial advice, but I can see how before the utility is truly realized in December, January, February, as we really roll out, maybe I'll upset a few people, but I'm glad the token isn't up at $30 right now. I think, I really I'm all about the community, and I know Peter is also, and I want people to be able to get in, and this way they can have their cash of UTHEX. I know a lot of people look at it as an investment. You're also going to need it for real to transact in the new digital age, in the real Web3.
Right.
So, why pay for it 2 years from now when you need it, instead of sort of buying it now, while we're in this phase. So we really wanted to give people the opportunity to come in before. I mean, all of these things play into the consideration, but nice that you had introduced your community to it prior to even us getting to this point.
Well, we'll definitely take some of the credit for it, but a lot of the credit goes to the community members. They believe in the project. They're behind. So that is one of the greatest things, guys, when you're evaluating and you're looking at projects and you want to get involved with them. The real strength, especially in the early days of any project, is the belief of the community members, the holders of that token, in a long-term future. So are they staking it? Are they moving things forward? That has such a big belief. Look, if it wasn't for the early holders of Bitcoin, it wouldn't be where it is at today. If it wasn't for the early holders of Doge, the believers, the people that said, I'm not selling whether it's up or down or whatever.
Right.
I believe in the long term of it. Those are the people that help drive it. And that's what we have in spades. I mean, they're just an incredible early community that believes that in a year, 2, 3, 5 years, they've bought into the idea that there's going to be a main metaverse and it is going to be Utherverse. And then that means that selling today is silly compared to down the road and where it has the opportunity to go. Being a token person myself, we get in projects and we think, oh, I'll sell it now and buy it back. But by the time you sell it now and then you use those funds to buy something else, You're like, oh, I should buy. Oh, I don't have any fun. So the best thing to do, I'm a holder, right? I buy, I hold, I buy projects and get involved in projects. And again, not financial advice, but this is what I do in the Web3 space. And especially with what's happening right now in it, the future of where Web3 is going, in my opinion, biggest transfer of wealth in human history, right? That the everyday average person can get involved with. Me, Peter Gantner, can just get a wallet, go out, grab some crypto. I'm involved with it. I'm a part of it now. I don't have to have any technical. I don't have to have a brother-in-law or an uncle or a cousin that's in the web, in some other space. I can really get involved and engage with it. So with that, community is extremely important to us. And that's why we continue to reward our community. For our holders, we've offered an additional airdrop that were in our pre-sale and our IDO. We've offered extra things in so many areas because we do understand, and that's what you want to find, founders of projects that understand that community is commerce. The community is going to be the early drivers and that will build the structure for the project, the token.
I want to just throw in two other things here if I can. Somebody messaged me a couple of days ago, and I hadn't really thought about this all that much, but it hit home that because essentially I funded the entire development and almost everything, really up until recently, and certainly we didn't bring in any venture capital firms. Right. There's no overhang of a big VC that picked up millions of tokens and is just waiting in the wings that can dump it. That just doesn't exist with this project. And it didn't resonate with me until they were saying just how many projects get dumped on by their VC as soon as the token is there. That's another really, really strong component to, I think, why this token has performed so well, up 10x as of today. It was up 20x from the pre-sale, and it's got so much room to run. So I think that's a really strong area. And then I did a video. Peter and I had a discussion. We clipped out about a 20-minute segment where I was discussing really, I won't get into the whole thing here, but really the background of what is money, what are the attributes of money, and I really encourage people to look at that because as much as I say this project is designed to be the final layer of the internet, the Web3 sort of spoke for everything, or hub for all of the spokes of Web3 rather. I believe that Bitcoin is a fantastic for one attribute of money, which is store of value. UTHEX has been specifically designed to take down the other primary feature of money, which is the unit of the medium of exchange. We're both unit of account, but as a medium of exchange, because Utherverse is the metaverse, and what I was saying earlier about digital goods, digital services, and the digital token, this has all been very methodically planned to be the only other competitor to Bitcoin, ultimately, where Bitcoin has store of value and we have medium of exchange. And based on those metrics, I think that UTHEX ultimately becomes a peer to Bitcoin. And that's really the plan. So, the long-term strategy, we've got a 15, 20-year time horizon strategy here. This is not like an in and out kind of thing. So, and it is spectacular that our community, our thousands of holders already, really recognize that. They're in it for the long haul. Nobody wants to be the guy that, had the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at 40 cents and sell it at $2 and go, yeah, I 5x my money.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if you can find that video, it's on our social media. That's a good one to check.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that Peter and his team could probably provide me the link, and we'll make sure that it gets in the description.
We'll get it out
and on that note, as you guys Yeah, as you guys mentioned, community is commerce. It's so important. So I really want to encourage my community, to intertwine and become part of your community. So I know you have a fantastic Twitter, Discord, a Telegram. Where's your favorite place for people to come really connect with you at?
I mean, we really connect best on Discord, but you got to follow the Twitter X account also to be, instantly aware of, the giveaways or contests or, events. But if you've got anything you want to discuss, we typically do that on Discord more than anywhere else.
Yeah. We'll make sure that all those links are in the description so people can find you easy.
Excellent.
With that, folks, I think we really gave everybody here that's watching just an incredible amount of information and really sent them in the right direction to where they can go do their own due diligence and really take a look at, the Utherverse. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we call it a day?
Brad, maybe you can pull up CoinMarketCap and we can show them the token real quick.
Sure, absolutely. Let me bring that up here.
Of course, it's on Solana, so it's available on Jupe and Jupe and Radium.
There we go. So let me refresh so everything's up to date. But yeah, here we are on CoinGecko. It looks like the token is sitting at a little over 40 cents a token. Maybe I shouldn't have hit refresh. There we go. My internet's working a little bit slow. Here we go. But yeah, so it's showing here. Are all these numbers relatively correct? Is that right? The current market cap with the circulating supply is about 9 million?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. So there you go, folks. $9 million market cap. It doesn't get much better than that. I don't know what you guys believe, but me personally, I don't think that until a company really hits, 100 million, and maybe even it's closer to like 500 million or $1 billion, that they are really, getting the credit that they deserve in the cryptocurrency world. So, as a cryptocurrency investor for the last 7 or 8 years, when I see something that's sitting at under 10 million, I'm looking at the very real potential. Once again, this is not financial advice, folks. None of us are financial advisors. Please do your own research, do your own due diligence. But when I'm investing in this token, I'm looking at a very real possibility of a 25, 50, 100x and above.
If we can achieve, my focus is not on, ultimately the market cap of the token. My focus, of course, is really on becoming the sole metaverse platform for the entire world. Everything else derives from that. So, I wouldn't hazard a guess as to what the fair value is, but I would say exactly what I said before, which is I love this window of opportunity for people that are really going to participate in the community. I would like everybody to be rich, but certainly people that have, good ethics, are there to support other people, really want to be part of a close community where we lift everybody up, where we're all positive with each other. If that's you, then, we want you in the community. And I think this is, this is the window before, everything is really turned on, the economy is turned on. So, and
if you're looking to do some research, you can look at City GPS did a review of what they thought Metaverse was going to be able to become over the next, it was a few years ago. And they were estimating 5 billion users, $13+ trillion in commerce that's taking place within that platform. So Metaverse has a huge potential. If you want to look at what's going on, I always like to look at not what companies are talking about, but what are they doing in the background. Yes. Lots of stuff being done by major companies that is focused towards the metaverse. So they're not saying anything about it, but they're still focusing on the background because they do understand it's the future in the next 3, 5, 10, 15 years where things are going. So, that, and that's what you want to do, right? It's great to be in AI right now, But imagine if you would have been in AI a couple of years ago, right? Before November of 2 years ago, when finally, Chat GPT first came out, if you would have been situated and in place in that time frame and then watched it go from there. And, again, not financial advice, but I believe Metaverse is in the perfect position, along with the rest of Web3, to actually begin to grab some traction here over the next few years and become a bigger part of our lives. One of the keys is if you understand that every single day, the human race moves more towards a digital future, right? We're more digital today than we were yesterday. We'll be more digital tomorrow than we were today. And if that's the case, then ultimately that landing place of that is going to be Metaverse.
Absolutely.
I've got one other thing to share before we call it. Let me see if I can make this work here. So for people that are, did that work?
Yep.
Okay, great. So for people who are looking at this long term, this is just a chart of the staking rewards. We have just recently activated staking. So I thought I'd point this out for people that plan to come in and believe in the project and want to stick with it, that we've got some very attractive staking rewards here for early entrants here, up to 18% for a 2-year stake.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Love it.
Fantastic. Well, certainly appreciate the time.
Man, I appreciate your guys' time. I know how much time it takes and how busy you guys are with everything that you have, going on and that's on your plate. And really excited to have you back, in the next handful of months as we see Bitcoin hit 100,000, 125,000 and above potentially, and all of the new updates. And I'm looking forward to going and getting my metaverse created inside the Utherverse, and really looking forward to inviting my community to join me inside the Utherverse. And, not only are we going to have a lot of fun, but I think we're all going to make a lot of money.
We will do that. We will do all of those things.
Absolutely. Awesome. So thank you so much again, guys. Folks, if you've been watching this, please go give these guys a follow on Twitter. Go join their Discord group. And once again, not financial advice, but go buy some tokens on Jupiter. So with that, guys, God bless you all. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you again real soon.
Thanks, Brad.
You too.
Thanks, Infinite Community.
Wow.